is being recorded.
Awesome. Hey Zola, thank you so much for joining us. And this is another episode of FeatureBox AI's conversations with experts. So I'm super thrilled to actually have Zola here. Zola is an expert in finance. She has worked in several controller roles from THG to Pericon MD, and now she is actually pursuing her evening weekend MBA and a good friend from Haas. Zola, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, if you don't mind giving a quick nugget of your background on what drives you, what sort of experiences you have beyond my introduction, I would love it. I would love to hear from you.
Sure. Thanks, Bharath, for having me on your podcast. Excited to be here. And a little bit background, I've been in the industry for almost 10 years right now. Started out as an analyst, so moved my way up to controllership role. Doing that, learned a lot about, how CPG companies deal with retailers, especially on the deduction side, and understanding each different deductions and everything throughout the years. And I'm excited to share insights with you and, talk about the further about the deductions. Yeah.
Love it, love it. No, absolutely. Before we jump into the weeds of
Hmm.
deductions and
Uh-huh.
finance and everything, I just wanted to know really quickly, like
Uh-huh.
what got you into the beauty industry and what led you to build a career there, if you can just share about that.
Oh, I can be honest with you. It wasn't something that attracted me the most first. I mean, I started out as an analyst in Wells Fargo, but then the big corporations didn't really intrigue me. So I kind of moved to more a small to medium-sized company, and it happens to be the Pericon MD. So when I started out, just learning the industry itself was interesting, and then understanding further into the industry itself, it was very fragmented. And there are a lot of beauty cosmetics companies, but some of them really owned by big companies like LVMH, right? And there's fewer smaller companies like Pericon MD. They are doing their own, you know, production to branding to marketing, everything in-house. So understanding that whole industry was very interesting. And then I stayed in the industry for so long because there was so much to learn and explore.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, no, this is very close to our heart at FeatureBox
Hmm.
AI on what we do. We consider beauty industry as something which is integral to the consumer packaged goods experience. Very much the same sort of retail experience you'll have with Sephora, Ulta Beauty, and other players, and then
Hmm.
very much the same production experience. I've had actually people in my career move between food, beverage, food tech, and then cosmetics, beauty, and vice versa,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
interchange them. So I'm actually curious. Like, tell me, as if I were like a 10-year-old or 5-year-old, why are you so passionate about deductions? What do deductions really mean?
I'll give you little bit of background of information on like how the business run in this industry, right? So as a CPG company, we produce the cosmetics or skincare products, and we sell it to big retailers like you mentioned, Sephora and Ulta. So we when we do this trade with this big retailers, we come into a contract. So part of the contract is stated is in deductions. So deductions can mean like anything ranging from testers, you use it at the store, to any damages, right? When transporting the goods and products, and then any promotional deduction. So there's so many different categories within deductions you need to understand. But all in all, in essence, it's just when you sell products to them, they will take certain percentage of your payments as a deduction because we bind it with the contract. So let's say, for example, Ulta will give you like, oh, certain percentage of deduction. We're going to use that as testers. So then certain percentage of your gross revenue for the whole year is going to be used as testers, and then they will take it out of your payment at the end of the sale is done. So I think overall, retailers will deduct those amounts from your payments or the invoices you sell products to, right? So then they will give you the money net out of that deductions. Hopefully that is clear.
Makes sense, but
Mhm,
also it kind of feels like, and when I was first introduced to this concept, when I was working
mhm,
in Pete's, I was
mhm,
very much taken aback because folks like Amazon can potentially take up to like 14-15% of your invoice because you either have or have not met some of the conditions in the contract. And not all the time it's very clear. Sometimes
mhm,
I was told that it's very opaque in nature, saying something is going to roll into your books 6 months after, 5 months
mhm,
after, sometimes almost an year after. So it feels very punitive in the sense that your money is being held back from you. So
mhm.
I'm sure you get a much closer look in your finance roles. Can you tell me like how deep the problem is? Why are retailers behaving this way? Why isn't it more easier than it need? Why is it more complicated than it needs to be?
Well, I think I would say this is twofold issue. I think the first, I think the retailers, this is my assumption, don't take it as like it's what's happening. But when I was doing you know, going through this whole understanding of deductions and how it's working, and then you started questioning why this is this way, right? So contract is number one. They put you on this contract to make sure they are legally protect themselves from later if any kind of you know um any kind of legal actions taken against them, right? So I think that is clear that they're going to put you in a contract. But like you said, it's very messy. It's not clean. It's not clear because they make it that on purpose so that people on our end, like CPG producers, the consumer product producers are most of the time hard, like having a hard time. First, time is very important, and then the human resource, right? So going through all these deductions, trying to figure out the validate everything, it takes time. So I think, first of all, they made it really hard for us to really reconcile everything and claim back. So that's one. So that retailers can make money out of you, right? I think that's one. And second, they made it really purposely very not user friendly. Their systems are very old fashioned. Like some of them, you can't even download Excel file. It's really like that. So it makes it really hard for us again to use the data and, you know, validate against what we have in our own records. So it's harder for us to reconcile than it's hard for us to dispute back. So it's always that kind of problem is sitting on so I think based on that pattern of recognition, the problem we are seeing at the time, like, okay, what can we do this? So most of the CPG companies, I'm assuming they have a threshold amounts, like anything above $10,000, we need to go back and dispute. And disputing process itself is very also lengthy and very manual. It's like, Amazon, every single dispute you have to with manual process that takes, at least 30 minutes of one person, right? For one deduction. So think about that. We get hundreds and thousands of deductions. And if you multiply that, how many man's hours we have to spend to get like 10,000 back. So sometimes that math doesn't make sense, then we just let it happen. So because everybody is letting it happen, retailers think, okay, nobody's disputing. I think this is a way they can make money out of you. So I think those are the things we kind of all sit on top of each other. So for us CPG producers, they're gonna having a hard time to disputing back and getting the money back.
Yeah, yeah, no. This hits very close to my heart because I
Mm-hmm.
started my career as a continuous improvement engineer. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, my goal was to help companies save money and to
Mm-hmm.
know that there is this section of the business where you're basically not getting paid back, or you're basically held back in short pace
Mm-hmm.
and in opaque ways, not very
Mm-hmm.
transparent.
Mm-hmm.
This is very it was a really interesting emotional roller coaster when I was working with finance back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But at FeatureBox AI, I wanted to share this, right? In summarizing what you just said, tracking is one of the biggest problems that we've seen
Mm-hmm.
in this space because there's n number of invoices, n number of PDFs, portals, emails, and everything. You really need to figure out a way to get that. And the second
Mm-hmm.
one is like you said, right? The dispute process, it involves matching between what you've agreed contractually towards what
Mm-hmm.
actually happened on the ground. For example, somebody says that there is a shipment shortage, right? How are you going to prove that? It's almost like you are guilty unless you prove your innocence. So you really have to go figure out that packages and the documentation. And then ultimately, package this together and send it as a dispute. And again, that process, again, as you said, is very cumbersome as they've hide behind portals or the process is
Mm-hmm.
broken or people are not responsive. So it's almost like every point in the step of the way is including a heavy amount of friction. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say this. I was in a recent customer conversation. There is a big wholesaler,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. I can't take the name, but
Mm-hmm.
they would charge them huge amounts of these deductions, and they had to staff one person just to take care of this. Like literally, the
Mm-hmm.
business has one person
Yes.
just to take care of not all the deductions, just
Mm-hmm.
one
One.
part of the
Uh-huh.
deductions. And I'm like, oh my God, wow, that's a lot. And that is the kind of the customers today we are working with and saying, hey, we understand it's a hairball problem. You need a software or a solution that can help you effectively do the track, package, dispute, and then also automate as much of this process as possible. So it's really validating to hear that you as an expert also think
Mm-hmm.
that that's exactly what's happening. Let me maybe go down a little bit, dig down a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is all hope lost in this case? Like, do you see any cases of success from your background on successfully disputing this, bringing some money back, or like I want to hear your stories on how you effectively fought this.
Yeah, of course. And so as time goes by, you understand what they're doing, and then you're like, okay, what are the things we can do in terms of protecting our bottom line, in terms of saving money, in terms of how we can be proactive going forward, right? So I think all those come like lined in. So I kind of created this system in our own internal system to track everything. So make sure everything is aligned with what we have in our ERP system versus what they're in their portal. So we doing that, you understand how much deductions they're taking per year, how much deductions we're supposed to be like contractually binded to them. So just looking at one example for Ulta, we were able to recoup back our 150 plus $1,000 just from the testers. So that's what I was telling you. Like testers, we have certain percentage, and we had to track it internally, make sure they're not going above, right? And then year end, what we do is over yearly sales, that percentage we contracted. So I'm not disclosing that number because it's private information. So that's why I'm just keep saying a certain percent. But and then you calculate against what actually been deducted, right? So it's like you have to create that internal systems. I think a lot of companies they do it for the big amounts like testers or damages. They're huge because they take away a lot of money out of you. So they're using like, I don't know, opening up a bottle or opening up one of your cream at the store, and they use it as testers, right? So we have to make sure they staying within that contracted percentage. So one year, I think 2023, we were able to recoup back 150 plus thousand because they deducted much higher than what they're supposed to do, right? So something like this, it's doable. It's very doable, I think, if we can have good systems like Future AI, FeatureBox AI that implemented on top of your system that can help you track what's going on, what's actually happening, and what, retailers is deducting back to you. And then you can track them, and over time you can see clearly, easily. And then if they're taking over, then what they're supposed to do, you can reclaim or recoup back. So I've had several like successful stories like this, and then I've learned that okay, so if we can step ahead, sometimes like damages and shortages, something like that is hard to prove that
Sure.
you sent out 100 boxes and they receive 90 bucks. Where is the 10 bucks, right? So always it's something like, is it either our warehouse messing it up, or is it the transportation companies is losing stuff, or is it they're not receiving the 100? So it's always that type of a deduction is hard to prove, but the testers, any type of the promotional, anything that is easy to prove is something that we can really work on and way to our, harder problems. So if we can solve the easier problems first, and then we can
And go
move
to the
into the
hard
harder
problem.
problems later.
I
Yeah.
I love what you said. This is basically when we're talking about continuous improvement and going back to Lean Six Sigma and everything,
Hmm.
you got to start with the easy wins to get the momentum rolling
Yes.
and then
Hmm.
grow.
Hmm.
And for the viewers who are watching, I wanted to give this tip, right?
Hmm.
There is two ways of looking at deductions. One is planned and the other one is unplanned. Planned
Hmm.
is everything that you agreed to
Yes.
contractually. You
Yes.
know it
Hmm.
fits neatly into a box. For example,
Yes.
hey, I'm in a Kroger Fair Share program, or
Hmm.
hey, I've agreed to participate in Whole Foods Fair Share program, or
Yeah.
things
Uh-huh.
like that, which have been agreed. It's very
Yes.
clean cut. And then there's things which are, like you were mentioning, shortages, things like
Yeah.
product going bad or not getting the
Hmm.
right
Hmm.
labeling and so on and so forth, which
Yes.
are don't nicely fit into a box. And that's where you would come in. And I'll give you some examples. I've seen this with a customer where they're charged for admin fees or dashboard fees. We're laughing at it because it's 30 bucks. But guess
Hmm.
what? Every time they process this invoice, they charge you a 30 bucks, and it just really adds up to a big amount over a period of time. So that's where it's very important to first classify and then figure out.
Hmm.
But thank you so much for sharing your personal story. I hope we
Hmm.
can multiply Zolas and give them to every company. But that's what we're trying to do with FeatureBox AI. We're like
Yes.
bringing in
Yes.
a subject matter
Definitely.
expert, bringing a software, and
Hmm.
helping out.
Hmm.
So let
Yeah.
me actually ask you a little bit of a different question from the human angle. Now,
Hmm.
it's great. We're seeing an opportunity. We're executing on it. But I'll have my CEO come in and tell me, hey, guys, Ulta Beauty is a big account or Amazon is a big account. We don't want to mess with them, right? It's really important that we maintain our relationship. So let's just
Yes.
push and
Hmm.
do what we have to and let things work out. What was your response in that? Like, as a company, as a supplier to these retailers, are you really afraid of doing these things, or is there a right way of approaching these? I'm really curious about the human angle here.
Oh, so yeah, of course, the relationship with the retailers is important for us to maintain, right? It's our supply, or like, sorry, our sales channel. Like if you say, okay, Sephora, Ulta, like I'm just picking up my customer, right? So Sephora, Ulta, Nordstrom, we were in Amazon, all the big retailers. So the relationship important when the sales account manager or VP of sales comes to us and say, hey, what's going on? Why, it's if we start disputing things and like it makes things little, edgy and rough, right, with the relationship. But when they come approach to me and say, okay, I am rightfully claiming back what's contracted, right? I'm not going beyond the contract. I'm trying to actually make sure they're staying within the contract. That's what we're trying to do, right? So finance and accounting, we are, make sure things are happening correctly, recording correctly, make sure things are, all the P&L numbers running correct. That's our job to do. So if something is not, like, the deductions are not coming much higher than what we're supposed to expect, then it's something we should fight back. That's how I felt. And then I explained to our CEO, president, hey, we're not we're not trying to hurt relationship. We're trying to make sure the company as a CPG, small medium company, exists. Otherwise, we're gonna lose money. How we gonna, right? I understand relationship important, but I think if we contractually bind it together, we just make sure this contract is, applied and make
Honor.
sure,
Yeah,
honored correctly on
correct.
both sides, right? And I get it, Ulta or Nordstrom or Macy's, they're not trying to rip you off. It's
Mhm.
just how it's happening, right? The system itself, the
Yeah,
people behind seeing them, they don't see it, the whole picture. They're
yeah,
just doing their job. I'm
exactly.
doing my job, right? So it's like, okay, let's just try to come up with my number. This is
Yeah,
what all my evidence, the backups, and can you validate your system of
yes.
records? And then if something is not correct, then you have to, pay us back, right? So that's exactly what happened with Ulta. So I
Absolutely.
think it did not really hurt the relationship or changed any of the sales going forward. But I think it's just having good, um, you know, controller or accounting team or finance
Yeah.
team gives you that edge to talk to your
And
customers.
and providing the controller team and the finance team with the right tools is also
Yes,
very important.
yes.
For years now, we have all been pushing ERP systems onto them and saying, "Oh, you know what? You have your fancy little module called finance or accounting. Here, just use that." Which is,
Hmm.
kind of disrespectful to be
Uh-huh.
saying the least, because ERP systems are fundamentally system of records. And going back to something you
Hmm.
said, which really struck a chord with me, is the business, a mid-market CPG business should exist, right?
Hmm.
To be able to
Yes.
survive another day.
Yes.
I actually sat in a room. I
Hmm.
mean, I was fortunate at Pete's or maybe at other companies where the margins were decent enough, but I started my career in a salads company. I sat in a
Hmm.
room and I had the chief marketing officer, chief manufacturing officer sit
Hmm.
down with all of us and say one thing and one thing straight. Today, if we put all of the money in the bank and actually earn interest on that, we're gonna be making more money than what the
That
business is
thing.
giving us. And that was like such a moment for all of us. We were
Uh-huh.
shocked because we were running such an inefficient business and compounded the fresh food businesses and salads businesses and all of these things. Even any CPG business operates on really slim margins. So when you're
Yes.
slim margins and then there is death by thousand cuts compounding on you, it's actually better to close shop, take the money and invest in a bank and get paid the interest amount. So
Yes.
there are such opportunities. So it really, falls on the leadership team to make sure that they're supporting such opportunities. And to your point, the other thing I would want to say is when you're actually approaching your retailers and your brokerages, firms, and
Hmm.
everybody, they're going to respect you more. They're going to be like, hey, Zola and her team actually tracks everything. They basically
Yes.
have proof of everything,
Yes.
and I really respect that. So it's not only about relationship, but it's also about having equitable relationship and respect in
Yes.
that. So
Hmm.
in many ways, in the human angle, this is also very possible. So, Bill,
I
thank you so
mean,
much. Yeah, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it wasn't like a, overnight thing. It was understanding the system, understanding everything, and then how you're gonna build your internal system, how you're gonna fight, or how you're gonna make sure everything is aligned so that you can go back to them and ask for money, right? You don't want to do that if you don't have any evidence or proof of support, right? So I think
Hmm.
those are the things it's takes time to build that. It's like I was running. 5, 6 years of data to make sure everything is running, right? So I started out 2016. Since then on, I started building individual, customer data to make sure our systems of record, internal invoices, everything matched to their portal. So like running the data, and anytime my CFO or my CEO comes in and asks me data, I can pull it because that's how much I need to build out to make sure I have everything in front of me easily, right? So I think portals, like you mentioned, every retailer has its own portal. You have the right to get all the information, but all the information is not user friendly, like I mentioned. Some of them are just pictures, some of them just, so all the time you figure things out throughout understanding all the systems. And like I mentioned, it's all fragmented. So
Yeah.
that's why if you have like a tools like FeatureBox AI that can combine everything together,
Yeah.
gives you the full visibility of all the customers you're dealing with. Like in our sense, if we had FeatureBox AI, I would be seeing like Sephora, Ulta, Amazon all in one dashboard. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be easy for us to understand everything. So, I think it's long time process and understanding, and then
Yes, absolutely.
all this knowledge and um insights are built together for a long
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. No,
Yeah.
Rome is not built in a day, but
Yeah.
definitely with AI, Rome can be made much
Yes.
faster to what
Yes.
it
Yes.
took. But let me tell you this, right? One of our initial insights when we were solving this problem, when we
Hmm.
stumbled upon this problem a year ago and decided, okay, this is what we're going
Hmm.
to do. We had three major breakthroughs. Number one
Hmm.
is a unified data layer. We
Yes.
understand that every CPG company has multiple SaaS products, multiple like an ERP system, like a WMS system, and a few other things going on. We're not talking about ripping and replacing them. We're talking about ingesting that information carefully and building a unified data layer. That's
Hmm.
number one. Number two
Hmm.
is also comes down to the fact that exactly what you said, right? Going back and building profiles in each of these customers would take forever. So
Hmm.
we've done things like three-way matching and two-way matching, saying, okay, hey, where are your contracts during your onboarding? Where are your invoices? And
Hmm.
also, where are your dispute packages?
Actuals.
Exactly, dispute packages and actuals. So when you're doing this kind of like a mapping across all of these contracts coming in from your system,
Hmm.
there is invoices coming in from your ERP, and then
Hmm.
ultimately there is basically your dispute packages coming
Just
from like the
from
shipments and
your
everything,
portal.
your
Hmm.
portal, and matching that together and creating a package. I think is the lion's share of the work that you will have to do, and that's what software needs to do much faster and better, and that's kind of where
Yes.
we are traveling towards right now.
Hmm.
And thanks to you as well, like our discussions have been very illuminating to me and our team, where we're able to build in a lot of these features
Hmm.
very early on. So
Hmm.
let me switch gears a little bit here and
Hmm.
ask you this question. um, can you give me a little bit of perspective? Just moving, I know we've been talking shop talk so far. A little bit of a
Hmm.
perspective, Haas. You're pursuing the MBA program. You already have a career in finance and everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, how did Haas and the experience, the business school experience, change how you were looking at the same problems? Like, did you have any insight or a light bulb after you were taking your Haas classes? And like, I could have done that something, slightly differently or slightly interestingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say one, maybe the foremost important factor coming into Haas was you know just pivoting into something else, like maybe going into entrepreneurship. But looking at, like, going back to my background, like finance and accounting, understanding CPG industry, I'm like, okay, what can I do here within this industry? And then I had this mind, like, is there any system or tools I can build to consolidate everything, you know, give people or the companies more unified version of what I was talking about. But I think just coming into Haas, met a lot of people like you and Nikhil, like, Gorang, all the people I met, I think it it became really clear that it's doable. It's like it's not something like because I didn't have any technical background or coding or software, anything, right? I'm just pure finance and accounting person. I didn't know how to think through. But like just coming up with this idea and working with my classmates and understanding that concept and bringing it to life and looking at like how it's going to be able to do it, it really made big difference. Like Haas coming into Haas, meeting people, talking about your ideas, how it can, how we can bring to life, it really changed my perspective, and it really like you know broadened my horizon to think about the processes and problems in very different ways.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for
Hmm.
saying that. You're really kind. We are also learning as much as you are learning from us.
Hmm.
And I want to preface this by saying that the passion that you, folks like you and I have about an industry
Hmm.
like consumer packaged
Hmm.
goods,
Hmm.
beauty, food, beverage, everything,
Hmm.
is goes to say that now is the time to actually solve these problems. These industries have been systematically, disadvantaged in a
Uh-huh.
way. Not every
Uh-huh.
company, but at least the mid market and the up and coming growth brands. And helping them is going to be the utmost satisfaction. And helping them through software, helping them through our expertise is going to be evenly much more meaningful. So I'm glad that you and I could work on this, and we can on the way of building this, helping customers, we're able to learn and have so many experiences. I know we're at the tail end of our conversation. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to add to your point is that I think small to mid CPG companies, I think what I noticed, like working in one, right? Working at one of those companies, we were not that small. We were making $100 million a year. But at the same time, I think we were good at making the product and selling them to the consumers. I think that's what our you know, focus was, right? Not so much on the IT or tech side of it, right? So because we didn't have much expertise or the people or team solely focused on that kind of problems, it really kind of hurt us on the long run because we did not make good investment in your IT systems or anything. But at the same time, this type of a like feature box AI tools was not, you know, at in the market at the time because we were like we always the tech companies or anything more innovative was more based on like SaaS or any type of, right? It wasn't really focused on CPG companies, right? So this I think this is the time a lot of tools is coming out to help CPG companies to bring this new innovative ways to do the business to them, right? So I think if FeatureBox AI, any type of a tools, if the CPG companies can utilize them, it will really help them push forward and
Absolutely.
bring this innovative features to their business model.
Let me just plug in using this
Yeah,
opportunity really
yeah.
quickly. One of the things I've personally seen in my career, in my life, is that the big guys are going to take a hit, they're going to be fine. But the
Mm-hmm.
small guys, the growth brands, those are the guys, the mid market, which is honestly all the way up to $500 million. They
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all need a lot of support, a lot of software that's purpose built for them. There's a
Yes.
huge gap in the space.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
where FeatureBox AI is coming in as a revenue recovery and
Mm-hmm.
growth engine
Mm-hmm.
across
Mm-hmm.
deductions,
Mm-hmm.
forecasting, trade, and data
Mm-hmm.
analytics. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gonna plug that in here and also in the description for people to go learn more. But before we wrap up here, would love to
Mm-hmm.
do a small lightning round with you. Don't
Yes.
think too much. Give me quick answers for this.
Yes.
I want to learn what was the most bizarre deduction you ever seen in your life? That's my question number one for you.
Bizarre.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Um, that's kind of hard. Bizarre meaning like very out of ordinary, out
Yeah,
of
very out of ordinary. Yes, yes. Let's call it that. Yeah.
Well, I think the new companies, like for example, one of our company customer was subscription box company,
Hmm.
and then they did the deductions. They call it EDI, non-compliant deductions,
Hmm.
and they did it per item. So that was one of the bizarre, because I never heard of that
Okay.
before. I know we did it before non-EDI non-compliance. EDI non-compliance deductions were like per PO or per
Sure.
invoice, but then they did it per item, and then it was like, it's how can you do that to us?
It's that's I mean we're learning one I mean at least I've been doing this for almost a year now and I'm learning one new category every day. So
Yes.
yeah,
So
welcome to the house.
the EDI non-compliance is also another huge deduction category. You can, any companies who are dealing with big retailers, they have to have EDI connected, and through EDI, all those deductions will come through.
Absolutely.
Crazy, yeah.
And my second question for you,
Mhm.
who's your favorite retailer to work with, or who was your favorite retailer to work with across all the companies you've been at?
Um, So I would say in terms of, okay, so I will tell you two. Okay, in
Mhm.
terms of quick response and very responsiveness is Ulta. So
Mm.
Ulta is very responsive. Anytime we send it out, they will really responsive, send you all the things we need. And clarity and easy to use is Nordstrom.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Got it.
In terms of like portal, like clarity, portal, and everything, Nordstrom is really good.
Love it, love it. I'll tell you my favorite right now to work with is basically Kroger, and I'm not gonna say why, but I'm gonna leave it as a mystery. If anybody want to know, they can DM me why Kroger is my favorite.
Yeah.
I can tell them in more in the messages. The last question that I have is, can you tell me about the most like the funniest conversation you've had with a non-finance person? Like you were explaining them
hmm
something which is finance related, and they
hmm
wouldn't get it or they would get it because I was that guy who did not understand anything about finance. So curious if you have any funny stories from your time working in a finance within CPG companies.
Yeah, so most of the time the sales are not that they're the one we really work closely with. So they do understand each other. We do understand each other really well. But I think e-commerce team was one of the teammate was something that we had really fun conversation with, because she started managing the subscription box
Yeah, yeah.
their accounts, and then like understanding the deductions, understanding those are the things that we have to explain. She was like, why they're taking this money? And then like, okay, this is what's happening. And she's like, no, it shouldn't happen like this. Like never in, you know,
Yeah. For anybody
never
who's not
crossed
from
her mind.
from anybody who's not from finance, they would be like, why are we somebody taking money from us and
Yeah,
not you?
yeah,
I'll tell
exactly.
you.
Like most of the time they question like, what's going on here?
What's going on here? Like I know a leader for 30 years who ran several companies, and then I would go up to them and I asked them, "Do you have this problem?" And they say, "Nope." And then I was like, "Can I talk to your managers and your accounting and finance teams?" And then they're like, "Yes, huge problem." But it's such a problem. It's very so isolated. It's really
Yes,
difficult to
it
get your pulse
is.
on.
It is very isolated within collection team, within the accounting team and finance team. And yes, salespeople do understand, but salespeople, their purpose, right? Their goal is to make more sales, right? But bringing their focus to the bottom line is important for us too, right?
Of
You
course.
can bring top line sales, but then if the deductions is still high, your bottom line is not going to be much improved, even if bringing 10-20% higher sales per account. So I think closing that gap between the understanding of the top line sales versus bottom line, I think that's very important conversation we used to have with sales team. Hey, top line important, but how its bottom line is affected by deductions is important. So for them to understand what they can allow and what they can't allow, what they can do, and that's really, really important conversation you as a salesperson has to have with your accounting or finance.
Yeah,
Like I'm
absolutely.
the one usually tell them, hey, your margin is dropping below 50%. What are we going to do? Like, how are we bringing it? They can bring more sales, but most of the
Yeah,
time, retailers will ask you if you're gonna sell more, what they're gonna getting in
yeah,
that, right? So it's like always you have this balance between how much you can sell, bring top sales versus how much you can, bring a bottom line. So I think always that conversation happens, and then
absolutely. And one thing
your
I would say is they also have an impact. They just might not know. A lot of the salespeople, whenever they're getting paid on commission basis, if the company, provided the company has the commission linked up with the final, amount of the money
mhm,
received, not just the gross sales or
the
the top
gross
line
sales.
number, it might be actually beneficial for them. So if there's any CEOs or COOs listening, this is how you get your sales team to care for deductions. You can tie it
Yes,
down with the bottom line numbers and make sure that
yes.
the
And then
commissions that
they
are
will
posted
care
from this.
for deductions.
They care for deductions. Amazing,
Because
amazing.
it's gonna hit your bottom line, right? So
Yeah,
basically that's what we trying very hard to, even our sales team wasn't no, no, was on the top line sales commission numbers. We were like, okay, yes, we get it, but deduction is something that is really taking away a lot of from our bottom line. So we have to get through them and understand,
ab-
really in detail. But one more thing to add, I know we're wrapping it up, but I think the deduction itself, like you said, is very siloed, isolated problems, looks like, right? But then it really affects your bottom line. Everybody should, like, especially from CFO to your accounting manager to your VP of sales, everybody should be looking at that number to make sure those are really aligned with what you're supposed to be contracted with, right? Anything above that, I think you should be questioning every single one of them.
Absolutely. And on that note, thank you so much, Zola, for sharing so much wisdom with the audience. I hope I can push this content to as many people as possible so that we can educate them, we can help them on this
Yes.
journey. It's a
Hmm.
pleasure having you, and you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was, like you said, you can tell me how passionate I am talking about this issue. So I hope this was helpful for anybody listening to the podcast. And, I hope gives them really good insights, what's coming at FeatureBox AI and what it can help with the companies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Zola.